She didn't besiege the city. She didn't storm the walls. She used birds to burn an entire nation to ash. This is not a legend. This is not mythology. This is one of the coldest, most precise military operations ever recorded in human history. The year is 945 AD. The Drevlians have killed the Prince of Kiev, torn apart between two bent trees, and sent word to his widow to prepare to remarry. Prince Igor entered Drevlian territory to collect tribute. He left tied between two bent trees, torn in half, as a message to anyone who dared follow him. The message was clear. Kiev is leaderless. Kiev is weak. Kiev will fall. They were catastrophically and fatally wrong. The woman who inherited the throne was not mourning. She was not panicking. She was in absolute silence, already calculating the response. Princess Olga of Kiev, a ruler who would use 4 completely separate operations to dismantle an entire nation without a single open battlefield engagement. The Drevlian Prince Mal believed power could simply be claimed. He sent 20 elite nobles to Kiev, with a marriage proposal dressed as an ultimatum. What those 20 nobles could not know was that they had already been marked before their boat ever touched Kiev's shore. The trap was already built. Olga received the proposal calmly. She smiled. She offered rest. She offered honor. And through that night, her soldiers quietly dug. By sunrise, a deep trench had been cut into the earth, precisely where the trap would close, precisely where 20 men would disappear. Olga sent word to the envoys, "You will be carried to me in your ceremonial boat as honored guests of Kiev." They accepted with pride. The Drevlians accepted, proud and completely unsuspecting, still seated inside their boat, being carried by Kievan soldiers directly toward the trench. The moment the boat reached its position, the ground vanished beneath them. Confusion exploded into screaming in seconds. Olga stood at the edge, watching, without a single flicker of emotion. She looked down and asked, "Does this honor please you?" One command. The earth fell, the trench sealed. 20 Drevlian nobles buried alive in the silence of a Kiev morning. Phase 1, complete. No battle, no resistance, no warning given. Just the geometry of a perfectly designed trap, executed without hesitation and without mercy. Without pausing, Olga moved immediately to Phase 2. She sent a message to Iskorosten. "I accept. Send your finest men to escort me to your city." The Drevlians responded with pride, sending their highest nobility directly into Kiev, walking with complete confidence into the second operation. Olga received them warmly. She offered them the honor of a ceremonial bath before the formal greeting. They accepted, unarmed, unguarded, relaxed. The nobles entered the bathhouse, confident, completely trusting the illusion of safety that Olga had engineered around them in advance. The doors closed behind them, heavy locks engaged, and then fire from every direction, simultaneously, with no exit left intact, no escape possible. Panic erupted immediately, but the structure had been prepared, every exit sealed, the fire moving too fast for any response to matter at all. The architects of Igor's death eliminated, not on a battlefield, not in open combat, in a bathhouse, through deception and patience. Phase 2, complete. 2 strikes. 2 perfect operations. Still, the Drevlian army remained, and Olga had already designed Phase 3. She sent word to Iskorosten, "I grieve my husband. Allow me a proper funeral feast in his honor on your land. Grant me this, and I will seek peace." The Drevlians accepted. They arrived confident, believing the conflict was ending. They brought warriors, commanders, their best fighting men, all of them. The feast began. Olga's servants moved continuously, filling cups, refilling, never stopping. The alcohol was unlimited, deliberate, precisely calculated. Hours passed. Discipline dissolved into laughter. Warriors who had torn a prince apart between trees now drank freely on Olga's generosity. Olga's soldiers had not touched a single drop. They stood in position, watching, completely sober, completely ready, waiting for the signal. The Drevlian commanders lost awareness of their surroundings. Their coordination collapsed. Their reaction time? Gone. The perfect moment, engineered without suspicion. Olga gave one signal, a single movement, and the entire operation activated simultaneously. Across every point of the gathering, at once, her soldiers moved with speed and precision, cutting through the disoriented army like a blade through smoke. Thousands eliminated within minutes. No formation, no siege line, no warning. Just the merciless efficiency of a pre-engineered ambush against an enemy that never once saw it coming. Phase 3, complete. The envoys, buried. The nobles, burned. The army, massacred. One objective remained: The capital, Iskorosten, the capital of the Drevlian nation, protected behind thick walls, defended by determined soldiers, and a population that refused to surrender. Olga marched her forces to the city and established full encirclement, supply lines severed, all exits sealed. The siege began. The defenders inside were not weak. They had walls. They had discipline, they had the will to endure, and they used every advantage the city gave them. The first assault was repelled. The second stopped cold at the walls. Every direct attack Olga's forces could organize was met and turned back. Weeks passed, then months. The siege dragged forward, costly, slow, increasingly ineffective. Direct force was not the answer. Olga knew it. Her generals pushed for escalation, more troops, heavier assaults, a full frontal push. She rejected every proposal, calmly, and returned to thinking. She sat with the problem differently. Not how do we break the walls, but how do we make the walls completely irrelevant? The assault pressure lifted. Siege operations stopped completely. Silence replaced the constant drumbeat of attack for the first time in months. Inside the city, the silence was more disturbing than the assault had been. Defenders didn't understand what was happening. That confusion was deliberate. Then a messenger arrived at the gates, carrying a proposal from Olga herself. The defenders prepared for the worst. The message was unexpected. I am tired of this conflict. I am willing to accept peace for a single, simple tribute from the city. The Drevlians braced for demands: gold, silver, territory, slaves. What they received stopped them completely. Silence. Then confused laughter. 3 pigeons, 3 sparrows, from every household in the city. That was the entire demand. That was all Olga wanted. The War Council deliberated briefly, then agreed immediately. The demand was so insignificant, it seemed like surrender from Olga, not from them. The order went across Iskorosten. Citizens opened their cages, climbed rooftops, gathered birds from every corner of every street, and delivered them all. Thousands of pigeons and sparrows, bundled carefully, delivered through the gates to Olga's forces outside the walls. The gates closed again. Peace was declared. Inside, celebration. The siege was over. The great Olga had blinked. They had survived. They had endured. They had won. Or so they believed. Outside the walls, in Olga's command tent, a different operation was beginning. Quiet, methodical, precise, with no celebration and no pause. Her soldiers began working through thousands of birds, one by one, systematically through the night. Each one handled calmly, without urgency, without error. Small strips of material, treated with slow-burning combustible compounds, were prepared in advance. Each strip designed to ignite gradually, not instantly. One by one, each strip was attached carefully to the leg of a bird, tied with precision, tight enough to hold, loose enough not to alarm the animal. Thousands of birds processed through the night. Thousands of slow-burning devices attached and ready. The weapon was assembled, and it was alive. Olga observed the preparation in complete silence. No speeches, no declarations, only the quiet efficiency of a commander who already knew the outcome. She waited for darkness to settle fully, not dusk, full darkness. The kind of night where fire becomes visible from every direction simultaneously. Torches were lit across the camp, not for light, but for ignition. Soldiers moved to their positions around the cages. The command was ready. Olga gave the order. A single word, and thousands of cages opened simultaneously. Across every corner of the camp, in one motion, the sky filled instantly. Thousands of birds erupting upward, wings cutting through the dark, each one carrying fire, each one heading home. Because that is what birds do. They return home. Every pigeon, every sparrow, returning instinctively with fire attached to their legs. The first birds landed on Iskorosten's rooftops within minutes, then dozens more, then hundreds, landing on wood, on thatch, on stored grain, then ignition. The first fires began quietly, almost invisibly in the darkest hours of night. Then the second ignited, then the third, then everywhere at once. Within minutes, fires burned simultaneously across every district. No single point, no concentrated zone, every quarter, every street, every rooftop burning at once. The attack bypassed the walls entirely, not through them, not over them, around them, through the sky, through the natural instinct of birds going home. The first alarm cries erupted from the northern quarter, then the market district, then the military stores, then the command center itself in flames. Defenders who had held those walls for months turned to find their city burning behind them,
from inside, with no visible attacker anywhere. Water brigades formed instantly, but the fires were too numerous, too distributed. Every bucket addressed one fire, while 5 more ignited right beside it. Critical military supplies began to burn. Food reserves, weapons caches, command infrastructure. The operational capacity of the entire city dissolving in real time. Communication between commanders broke down. Runners struggled through smoke and chaos. Orders failed to reach defenders. Military coordination collapsed completely. The psychological impact was devastating. Fire from every direction. No visible enemy, no walls to defend, no attacker to face. Just fire everywhere, always. Soldiers abandoned defensive positions, not from cowardice, but because their families were burning inside the city. The walls abandoned from within. Children carried through smoke-filled streets, livestock breaking free in panic. The organized defense of Iskorosten transformed into pure survival chaos in minutes. The fire spread from rooftop to rooftop, following the natural architecture of the city. Every alley a channel, every wooden structure a bridge for flame. The walls still stood, perfectly intact, untouched, never breached. A fortress surrounding an inferno, exactly as Olga had designed from the beginning. The gates opened, not to attackers, but to thousands of civilians and soldiers streaming outward, desperate for air, desperate to survive the fire behind them. They ran directly into the open field, into the darkness, away from the fire, into the killing ground that Olga had prepared weeks in advance. Her army was already positioned, in perfect formation, silent, waiting, completely invisible in the darkness beyond the walls. The trap was fully closed. The encirclement activated simultaneously at every exit. Every escape route had been designated and covered in advance. There was no direction left deliberately open. The Drevlian soldiers, disorganized, smoke-blinded, separated from their commanders, encountered a coordinated force in peak condition, waiting in the dark. The engagement was brief. Resistance collapsed within the first assault. Those who fought fell. Those who fled found the trap had no exit. Survivors were identified and separated systematically. Drevlian leadership extracted from the prisoner population and removed with precision, one by one. Commanders who had held those walls for months were now prisoners, watching the city they protected burn to its foundations. By the time the fires exhausted themselves, the capital of the Drevlian nation had ceased to exist as a military or political entity. The walls remained standing, untouched, never breached, never scaled. They had simply become irrelevant, exactly as calculated, months in advance. The Drevlian state, which had executed a prince between bent trees in arrogant triumph, was now leaderless, armyless, and without a city to call home.
Olga entered what remained at dawn, not celebrating, processing with administrative calm the results of a plan she had constructed months before a single bird was moved. 4 operations, 4 traps, no pitched battle, no gate ever breached, total strategic domination, engineered through psychology, deception, and patience. What Olga demonstrated was not cruelty for its own sake. It was a systematic doctrine. Dismantle command first, destroy the army second, collapse the capital last. In that sequence, always. Each phase weakened the next target before the operation even began. By the time she reached Iskorosten, the city had no leadership, no field army, and no allies left to call. The bird operation reveals one specific principle. When the obstacle cannot be overcome directly, change the battlefield entirely. Move the fight to where your enemy has no prepared answer. She weaponized instinct, not superior technology, not overwhelming numbers, not brute force. She used the bird's natural drive to return home as a precision-guided delivery system. The Drevlians' own arrogance killed them before Olga's fire did. They underestimated a grieving widow. They accepted an insignificant demand without asking a single time why. In every phase, Olga offered them exactly what they wanted to believe: safety, honor, peace, victory. And in every single phase, believing the illusion was itself the trap. The lesson here is not about revenge. It is about patience and reading your enemy's psychology more accurately than they ever read themselves. History gave Olga the title the Great. The church later declared her a saint, but the Drevlians, those who survived, called her something else: the one who burns. 3 pigeons, 3 sparrows. That was the price of an empire. That was the tribute she collected before she burned everything they had ever built to the ground. If this story reached something in you, hit subscribe, because next,
we follow a general who lost both eyes on the battlefield and still engineered the greatest ambush in Chinese military history. That story is next.